Hello and welcome to this HESES training video. In this video we're going to take a closer look at Table 4 in the HESES workbook, the Health or NMAH table. We need to collect data to allow us to calculate a specific funding stream, the so-called NMAH supplement, for providers running pre-registration courses in nursing, midwifery and allied health professions. This is where the abbreviation NMAH comes from. Most providers won't need to use this table unless they run these courses, so you may not need to watch any further. Please refer to Annex H of the HESES guidance for full details. What is the purpose of Table 4? Well, it allows providers to record years of engagement on courses which, on successful completion, lead to first registration as a professional in nursing, midwifery and other certain allied health professions. The list of these professions can be found on Table 4 in the workbook or in the HESES guidance in Annex H. Notice that the tables don't record all healthcare professions. For example, students training to be paramedics or nursing associates are not included on Table 4. Like Tables 1 and 2, we separate the years of engagement by mode of study, but here they are all on this one table, and all students should already have been recorded in the corresponding table, either Table 1 or Table 2, according to their mode of study. It's worth saying that we would not expect any sandwich year out courses on the health tables, but if you think that applies, then please get in touch with us. We need these numbers to be recorded in these tables because their information needs to be analysed in different ways by, for example, profession, level, fundability status, and we also need to know what we call starters. We also need information on subcontractual status. So who is actually recorded on Table 4? Well, to be recorded, a student needs to meet the following requirements. They must be a home fee student. They must be studying on one of the specific pre-registration courses. And as I've said earlier, not all of them are recorded here. For example, I mentioned earlier nursing associates and paramedics. Please check in the HESES guidance for this. The courses for which students are regulated here need to be approved by specific regulatory bodies. So these are the Nursing and Midwifery Council, the Health and Care Professions Council, and the General Dental Council. Consulting the Annex H guidance is the best way to identify whether courses need to be recorded here. This guidance provides links to each of these councils' websites and will tell you how to search for the courses that come under the pre-registration definition used for Table 4. Table 4 has 4 sections, A, B, C and D. Section B is divided in two into Section B1 and B2. Sections C and D are for multiplication factors, and we'll look at those in a separate video. So in this video, we will concentrate on sections A and B. Table 4 has a similar structure to what we've already seen elsewhere in the workbook, although it doesn't have columns for overseas students because this table is only gathering details on home fee students. It also combines full-time and part-time student numbers. There are separate sections for these on the left here, although the part-time list is not seen here because it's beneath the full-time entries. For each of these modes of study, there are rows for all of the professions whose course numbers need to be recorded on this table, and as usual, these are divided between the undergraduate and postgraduate taught levels. On the right, we have Section A, into which numbers should be entered for home fee, OFS fundable and non-fundable students. If we put Section B alongside, we see its two parts, B1 for starters and B2 on subcontractual status. B1 has 2 columns. The first shows the number of years that meet the starters definition, of which more in a moment. The point here is that this makes it a subset of the numbers in Section A. For example, suppose that a provider has a 3-year course with a total of about 90 students across all years. In other words, they're usually taking around 30 starters each year. Assuming that they are all home fee students, Section A will show those 90 students and Section B will show the number of starters in that total, subject to them qualifying according to the criteria we'll look at in a moment. If there is a value for this row in Section A, but the number of starters is 0, the column alongside comes into play. This is where we seek confirmation on whether students are actively being recruited to the course. This is because the NMAH supplement requires this to be so if the allocation is to be paid. Section B2 records OFS fundable years countable included in Section A of this table that are taught under a subcontractual relationship where the teaching provider is not registered with the OFS in the approved fee cap category. We'll look at this in a moment. We talked a lot about starters as one of the categories on Table 4, so it's important to note that starters here are not the same group of students as the new entrants that we described for Tables 1 and 2, although there is likely to be a lot of overlap. Starters on Table 4 are students starting or who started study for the first time on an eligible pre-registration course in that year. So you will need to identify these separately in the first column of Section B1 of Table 4. There may be some complications involving students that repeat a year or who transfer between different professions, so please see Annex H in the HESES guidance for full details. The column alongside is used when there is a non-zero value in Section A, but the number of starters is 0. We touched on this in a previous slide. In these cases, we seek confirmation that the provider is actively recruiting because payment of the NMAH supplement depends on this. Please use the second column to indicate whether recruitment is taking place. We use the HESES return to get the data we need to calculate funding allocations. Section B2 of Table 4 looks for information on certain subcontractual arrangements that we need for these. Students on courses taught under a subcontractual arrangement where the teaching provider is not registered in the approved fee cap category of the OFS register are non-fundable unless the course is a pre-registration nursing, midwifery and allied health profession course. See Annex F. So it's a function of Section B2 to collect these details. We have a number of resources for providers, and we'll look at the main ones here, but we will also highlight additional resources as we go through this series of recordings. For a high-level view of OFS funding, see our Finance and Funding page, www.officeforstudents.org.uk/for-providers/finance and funding, with the last two parts of that URL having the words hyphenated. For an overview of recurrent funding specifically, add the hyphenated words recurrent funding to the last URL, or perhaps an easier way is to use the search function on our main web page and enter recurrent funding. For more detail about funding, see our annual guide to funding, and you can search for that term on our website to find the latest edition. The best place to start for HESES resources is the main HESES page on the OFS website, which can be found at www.officeforstudents.org.uk/HESES, and of course that is HESES. To stay informed about OFS announcements, including those relating to funding, you can sign up for our email alert service. Visit www.officeforstudents.org.uk/sign up for email alerts, and as usual, the last part of that URL is hyphenated. Thank you for listening and watching.